This is a meeting of the Representative Town Meeting Rules Committee, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is approving the minutes for the April 25th meeting. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mike. Second. Thank you, Teresa. Comments, additions? I hear none, see none. Those in favor of approving the minutes, raise your hand, would be the best way, I guess. Okay, looks unanimous. Noes? Very quick, Adele, good. Abstentions?
The noise
Okay.
when you get is just, that's responding to your voice. That's not someone abstaining, trying to talk. That's,
Okay, great.
Okay.
The
Who made a
minutes,
second on that motion? I'm sorry.
Teresa.
Thank you.
Teresa. Minutes stand approved. Now, District 6, we have a new RT.
Seth, this is Adele. Can I ask you, since you can see Jack and I, but I can't see you, could you let me know who's there?
Looks like the cameras in the room are not on, because that would be the green box that's
Correct,
black.
yeah, Mike's right.
Adele, it's Michael, Frank,
Yes.
Mark, Teresa,
And
and
Lois.
Lois,
Lois,
and Mike and Seth.
Okay, thank you.
I can see you, no problem.
our box is
Adele.
blank.
Our box is blank.
Should be able to see all of us anyway. Caroline.
We're doing a camera adjustment at the moment.
It's okay.
The camera's off.
yeah, it won't come on.
Won't
I'm
come on.
clicking it and I'm clicking it on and off and it won't come on.
Mine won't come on, that was weird. Oh, welcome technology.
The GoToMeeting did a complete redesign over the last 2 weeks and changed just about where everything was.
Oh, well. Okay, District 6, yes, Teresa.
So we caucused somebody on, her name is Alicia Johnson, and we are simply just going to slot her in to replace Chris Taylor, who is now on the Parks and Rec Commission. And so she will be on the Parks and Rec Committee.
Okay, just her name, just loud.
Alicia, A-L-I-C-I-A,
Yeah,
Johnson, J-O-H-N-S-O-N.
great. So can I have a motion to assign her to the Park and Rec Committee, please? Thank you, Ann. Second, please. Lois was quicker. Sorry, Frank.
Teresa, it was A-L-I,
A-L-I-C-I-A.
A-M-I.
A-L-I.
A-L-I-C-I-A.
Alicia, A-L-I-C-I-A.
Oh, okay, Alicia.
Did you get that, Mike?
Got it.
You got it, Mark?
Mark.
Frank, Harry.
You can be Mike.
M-A-R-K.
It's not improper, it's Alicia Carter Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I
If
think-
you could share her email, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. I'll send that to
Okay.
you now, Adele.
What district is she?
6.
Thank you.
All right, looks like we're ready to vote. Those in favor, please. Okay,
Can't see roll.
thank you.
He's not on the Rules Committee.
Opposed? I see none. Abstentions? I see none. Alicia is assigned to Park and Rec. Items for discussion tonight and or assigned committees, Robert's Rules, I'm working on it. We're not ready to address this at any rate. We've got a lot on our plate here for the RTM, but I will have that ready at our next meeting, probably in September, when we'll most likely also deal with the Freedom of Information Commission presentation. We'll probably do that in September as well, because we've got a lot of things here that are going to be on the RTM meeting. Tom's ready to come, but I think when he's going to make a presentation, I like to have everybody focused on him and not everybody sitting there going, oh my, keep me awake. I think it'd be better. All right, so we'll postpone him.
Does it make sense to postpone that, Seth, until after the new members are elected?
Yeah,
in November?
I'd push it to November, until after the new.
If we're pushing it to
members.
September, it seems like we should push it to November.
It does make sense.
All right,
If we're trying to get it in now, it'd be a different thing, but if we're gonna push it, which I think makes sense, seems like that'd be a good kind of orientation after election.
okay. We'll try and do both at that time. Great. Next is degentrification. We'll sign that to TGSNA. It's just, Frank, comments?
Good evening. We've all received a memo with the documents that will hopefully be presented to the RTM in the package. The first one is the actual resolution itself, which was very nicely prepared by town council. I'm very pleased by the way that turned out. The second document that will come out is a 7-page backgrounder on the resolution, containing a question and answer section, which takes a lot of stuff off the table, or at least answers stuff of general interest. The third document, which would be in the package, is a summary of the public comments. We received public comments from 2 hearings, and then had an open mic, an open email address for people to send in comments about the resolution. For the comments that were received at the hearing, we have reference to the Channel 79 Vimeo tape of it for the messages that came in through the RTM email address. We have them word for word in here. Then the fourth document is the actual resolution, the actual contents of the resolution itself, a 62-page work product that has about a little bit more than 450 changes in more than 160 sections of the charter and the code. If you were to take a look at this 62-page document, just to take a phrase, you'd find like on page 10 of 62, it reads right now, wherever the fire marshal establishes a fire lane, he shall file a copy of his order with the town clerk. Well, you will see that that's revised to being, whenever the fire marshal establishes a fire lane, the fire marshal shall file a copy of the order with the town clerk. One more example is in the police pension plan on page 30 of 62. Is a sentence which reads, upon the death of a member of the police department who shall have been retired for permanent disability from causes not connected with his service, the widow, his widow shall be entitled to receive. That would be revised to read, upon the death of a member of the police department who shall have been retired for permanent disability from causes not concerned with their service, the surviving spouse shall be entitled to receive. And so changes like that just go on and on through the document. Finally, as an item that was not included in the public comments, but was mentioned by a well-respected member of the community, he said that he could, while he might support this activity, he just couldn't understand why the town was spending so much money on it. I replied that I had done the math that the $4,500 represented 300,000th of the budget, or in terms of percent, it was 1/3000th of a percent. So the whereas clauses that Wayne has drawn up says, whereas gender neutralization is considered an important milestone in the work to create a more inclusive environment for both staff and citizens, and whereas the older language within the Charter and Code of Ordinance contain increasingly obsolete gender-specific terms, therefore, we resolved that we could make these changes. So I hope that we'll approve this evening, including it on the agenda for June 6th.
Thank you, Frank. So you want to move that this be put on the agenda, that TGS&A be primary?
Yes.
That's a motion?
Yes, from Frank. A second, Ann?
And any other committee who would like to take it on?
Well-
TGS&A will take it on, but it would be nice if any of the other.
Well, if we have any more volunteers, I'll be the first to let you know. Okay, so I have a second from Ann. Further discussion? Okay, looks like we're ready to vote. All those in favor, please. Okay. Noes, please. I might do this in reverse order, as a matter of fact. Noes, please.
Jack is muted and off camera. Do we need to just validate his vote?
Jack?
Oh, Mike Miller, you appeared on camera.
Yeah, amazing when you open the camera.
Andrew, you second?
It's amazing how
Andrew,
that.
second on that motion?
Yes.
Yes, Ann.
So I guess he would be an abstain.
Yeah.
Does it have to go, does F&B have to be secondary because we're spending money or no?
No.
We spent it.
Oh,
We've already
okay.
spent
We've
it.
already spent the money.
So does Jack make an abstention?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't vote.
Well, let's
Okay,
let's
so-
put Jack on a second and give him something to say.
Yeah.
Come on, let's do it.
You object to that, Jack?
Jack, are you there?
I suspect he's not there if he's not responding.
Busted, he was there before.
He was, well,
Don't vote for Jack, I mean, the lack
well, we'll
of
see.
vote, not a-
I'm expecting that he will reappear here momentarily because there's a few things that are on the plate.
And Mike, you got our camera.
He's getting his numbers in a row for the next thing.
Yeah. So the next item really are these, to discuss anyway, are the appropriation and bond authorizations, which I guess would be F&B primary, and I don't know if there'd be any secondaries on that. These are bond, all three of these are bond items. Yes, Lois.
But don't we need to talk about, has the RTM approved the expansion of those schools?
Well,
It's just
we
a-
approved the amounts. This is an increase to the full, for the full amount.
No.
Does it need to go to education?
It's really talking, it's not talking about, the resolution doesn't have anything to do with education policy or anything, or any programs. It's a straight up money.
It's just like we did at Oxbridge at the end.
I think so. I think we're all right just with F&B as the primary, and that's it. So can I have a motion, please, to make F&B primary on 22, 15, 16, and 17?
Second,
Uh,
or first?
Mike,
I move.
Mike, motion, Frank seconds. Further discussion?
In education, so they can still submit as another.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm still gonna ask,
Formally
so,
be second.
right, right.
Secondary.
Okay, no further discussion, ready to vote? All those in favor? Okay, opposed? I see none. Abstentions? I'll put Jack in as an
So we're
abstention.
gonna text
I'm
him
gonna
and see,
text
like,
him.
make sure he's okay.
See if we can get a hold of him.
And wouldn't you just say he didn't vote? I mean,
If
if
that's
it's
the
just
Yeah.
abstention, someone is not present, vote.
I guess he's just not present.
No, just to see where he is and make sure.
Yeah,
he's
no,
okay.
no, I agree.
Krista, could you repeat what you said? Somebody was talking over you. Could you repeat what you said?
Just to clarify, the abstention is an option. You may abstain, yes or no. The lack of any of the three is not a default abstention.
Yeah, I think we have to record as did not vote.
Is somebody texting?
I did, I
Okay.
texted him, I got no response as of yet.
Frank, were you the second on that motion? Who was the second?
It was Michael and Frank, first and second.
Now, I understand, you know we miss you, Jack. So, but while you were gone, we approved the entire agenda for the RTM, and we're just adjourning. No, don't go anywhere. Okay, so we made you primary on the appropriation and bond, and there's no secondary. We
He's
didn't
back.
see any point.
He's back.
There you are.
There's no secondary on which ones?
22, 14, 15, and 16. I know, I mean
15,
22, 15, 16, and 17.
And Jack, you want to turn on your mic?
Oh, there he is.
Yes, that would be helpful.
Hi, Jack. There we go. So,
I apologize. My dog, who is 16 years old, needed to be walked. And since my other housemate is not here, dog took priority.
Well, you could have taken your phone along, hooked up, and done it from on your walk.
I was considering that.
I had a student who did her class last week from the playground with her daughter.
okay. So anyway, we voted F&B primary for 22, 15, 16, and 17 without any objection, Jack?
Okay.
Okay. So the next,
Ask Jack if education needs to comment on this or not in the meeting. If so,
well, I
they
was
should
getting,
just
we
say
have
no.
a, all right. We did discuss whether or not education needed to comment on any of this, on any of those three. You had any thoughts about that?
On we're talking about the track.
No.
event which-
Just the renovations. Just the renovations.
Yes, education needs to comment on that.
On the bond authorizations?
Why?
Yes, because there's two parts to it. F&B will be dealing primarily with the finances associated with that, how they put the estimates together, what the bonding resolutions will do. It's adding 77.5 million to our debt, how the 3 tranches of issuance will be there, what the outstanding debt will be over various periods of time. The actual, even though the HHR committee will be doing a presentation, in speaking to Chris Price, we kind of felt that if the education committee and F&B gave reports and answered some of the questions that had been asked at the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance meetings, we could reduce the time that they have had to do their presentation. On average, their presentation has been over an hour, but again, they were taking questions during the presentation. So we thought that education and F&B could answer some of those, and so education should be part of that, should be secondary.
Okay. Any other thoughts from anybody else? I'll take a motion then to, on items 22, 15, 16, and 17, F&B primary, ed secondary. I got Teresa, and Mark will throw you under for the second. Good. Any further comments? Ready to vote? Any no votes? I don't see any. Any abstentions? Pick the pace up on this, Lois. I don't see any abstentions. Motion passes unanimously. Next items are the sidewalk repair and replacement, the sidewalk installation project, and the Darien High School track and jump areas. So are we thinking F&B primary on those, and then, I don't know, do we make public works secondary on sidewalks and ed secondary on the high school, or? Yes, Lois.
Can you hear me or do I need to go to the mic?
Lois has to speak up, I can't hear her.
I would just like to raise an issue. It doesn't have to be on these in particular, but I think we should address, since almost everything we do is revenue-based, and that would, by the way we've been lining it up, then F&B would be primary on almost anything. I have a suggestion that on the sidewalks and the high school track, we haven't discussed these before, so I would like to think that maybe we should establish a need to do the project and then support how we're going to fund it. I can go either way on it, but I just wanted to raise it because it's really a two-part thing, because we don't address the need for these things in any other time and place. So whether whoever's primary and secondary, I mean, both of the people are going to speak, but my thought was maybe the primary person would be the committee of like Public Works or that, and secondary would be F&B, unless we make them both primary. I'd be cool with that too.
Well, Lois, you're missing a committee on sidewalks.
I know, public health and safety.
Safety belongs on there as well.
I know, public health and safety. I wasn't going to miss that totally. Thank you, Jack.
All right. Comments?
Anyone who's making a comment from the back, please speak loud because they're having a hard time hearing online. And the other is to go to that microphone. But if I move that microphone over there, it won't help because it's pretty directional. So just speak louder, and they'll jack up your volume up in the TV 79 studio so the people online can hear you better.
Yes, Teresa.
Should I stand up?
You can't come
this-
in. It's fine.
Okay.
Watch over the wires.
It's also very formal.
I think it's only the only live mic.
The insurance wasn't large enough, so we'll
So to Lois's point, I agree with you. A lot of the full RTM don't know about these projects, but the specific committees do because they were in their original budgets, and then the Board of Finance pulled them out for bonding. So I agree with you that maybe these are things that should be discussed maybe sooner once they're pulled out. But I agree, they should be discussed so the full RTM knows why we're redoing the track and whatnot. And I say the track because I happen to be on education, so.
And this is Jack. The fact of the matter is that in those instances, similar to the education budget during the budget session, when once bonding is introduced, and since the charter says that F&B is the liaison between the Board of Finance and the RTM, F&B is having a conversation on what the items are, very similar to what happened when we discussed capital. We discussed the high-level numbers of it. So we're introducing the bonding and the appropriation only. We're talking about what the incremental cost to our debt service will be, and we're talking about the issuance cost. Again, approximate because nobody really knows until the bonds are issued, and it could be a year or so from now. I fully agree that there should be a conversation on what they are, but that's how we did the capital, and it seemed to work out well. in those instances where, you know, Public Works has something that's going on for an appropriation, or where, as an example, we would be appropriating the trucks or a car earlier, and it doesn't have bonding, F&B is secondary. But once bonding gets into the thing, F&B is introducing it because of the bonding. And it's a very short presentation. We're just saying sidewalks, the conversation of sidewalks, you know, new versus old versus asphalt versus concrete, what it's covering, and other things like that. F&B doesn't get into, not our purview. But the bonding in that is why F&B is primary on those.
That is on the table. The actual work has already been agreed to, and now these motions and these items are just talking about how it's gonna get financed, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So it's not, it wouldn't be out of line to have F&B as primary, because we're talking finance here. The projects are gonna get, they've already been approved. The only thing that changed that put it on the table here was the financing, which was bonded. And if you'd like to have Jack go on for a while, we could talk about whether these ought to be bonded or not. And I'd be willing to sit over a beer with him and talk about it, but not here tonight, I don't think.
Seth, I'm willing to have a beer with you, but not talk about bonding.
And I'll accept, Jack, that'll do. Having spent a few years on F&B, I have this funny little twinge in me that does that. Yes, Mark?
Just as a little aside, for those that do not know, when I first joined the F&B committee, Seth was the chair of that committee.
Yeah.
Can I ask
Mark.
how long ago that was?
Highly classified information. It was before you were, no.
So it may make sense, similar to this discussion we're having here, to point out to the RTM that these three items have already been approved, and we're talking about the structure of the financing.
Right. Right.
It may not be obvious.
So that means Public Works or Public Health and Safety don't need to comment on these. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
The way this has come to the RTM, yeah. It's part of the budget, but then so that piece is gonna get done? Yeah. The question is how you're gonna pay for it. And so I would take a motion, I guess, for F&B to just be primary on this. Okay, Ann and Mark, second? Great. So, more discussion?
If I might add something else here.
Yeah, Jack.
Originally, these were packaged as one bonding resolution. That's how we dealt with it during the budget. About 1.320 with about $3,000 of issuance costs. The bonding council decided to split them up for whatever reason the bonding council decided to do that. But as we're looking at how to structure the meeting, because this is a follow-up to the fiscal 23 meeting, I'd like them to go before the HHR presentation, if nobody objects, when we get to that point of the meeting.
Great. I hear you. Okay. So now we have to vote on F&B primary on these three items. Are there any no votes? I see none. Any abstentions? One abstention. Mrs. Snyder, thank you. Great. So the motion passes unanimously.
No, it doesn't.
Thank you. The rest, what?
There's an abstention.
Abstention.
Yes, I recorded that. Yeah.
It's unanimous.
But
one
it's
abstention.
unanimous because abstentions.
Don't count.
Okay, now, let's talk about the agenda for the meeting. We had the budget meeting.
Jeff,
Yes.
Jeff,
Oh, yes,
can I interrupt?
Adele.
Can I interrupt you
Adele.
for just a second?
Yeah.
I just wanted, I thought I would be remiss if, Jack and I had talked about this. I thought I would be remiss if I didn't mention, as you recall in the budget meeting, we promised you that Park and Rec would be bringing a transfer to the RTM. And we're not in June. And so what they've decided to do is push it off to September so they can get the exact number right for the transfer. Because last year they ended up having to, we passed the transfer of $250,000 in June, and then it wasn't enough, and so they had to scramble at the end of the year. So this year, they've decided, the finance department decided that they would push this off until September, and they would get the number right. So that's why it's not on the agenda, so everybody knows.
Okay.
And
Great.
to add to what Adele said, and speaking to Jen, there may be enough room within the existing budget when they close out the year so that they can transfer funds without it coming to the RTM, which would then just require Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance. But we'll know more, as Adele said, in September.
Great. Great. There is one item that has been on the pages of the newspapers, which is sort of hanging out there, but and that is the purchase of Great Island. We don't have anything in writing from anybody about RTM action required on this, and I do not have anything that gives me any idea how this property is going to be used or what the final cost is or anything. So that's why you don't see it here on the Rules Committee agenda. And as soon as I have anything that indicates what is going to be expected of us, I will get it out to the members of the Rules Committee so that we can proceed. And we'll also, I think the first selectman may have been in contact with some committee chairs, the RTM, which is fine. But to my knowledge, there's no proposal on the table here that the RTM is ready to deal with at this time. Okay, and then without objection, I made a big error, and that is I failed to put the Technology Committee on the agenda of the Rules Committee. My apologies to Lois, but I will recognize Lois without objection to talk about technology because it also relates to the RTM meeting.
Thank you, Seth. You're forgiven. So there are three things that we're working on in the Technology Committee. So the first one is the Selectmen's project that was approved as part of the ARPA, which is a permanent equipment changes to the auditorium to allow hybrid meetings. That is going to be a long, slow process. It is underway. It goes through RFPs and a bunch of things, and we are, Mike and myself and Mark are working on it. I'm just going to put that aside because there's nothing to report on that. I think I'm going to go to the committee meetings next and then go to the hybrid discussion for the RTM because that's a longer discussion. So Mike, do you want to report?
The committee meetings, we've ordered with a $30-day return, a unit that's called a Candow Pro. You can go online and look at it, but you've seen the meeting owls around, but it's the next generation, and you don't even need a computer to plug into it. You can put it in the middle of the table, and it can do the room, and everybody out there can see everybody in the room. The wrong unit got purchased by mistake, and the correct unit is supposed to be here tomorrow. So I'll test it tomorrow or Wednesday, and Jim Cameron's going to help me and find out if it's a solution for 206, 119, and the smaller rooms. It's not really designed for an auditorium. It's designed for rooms slightly smaller than this. The equipment is getting great reviews, and a lot of large financial institutions have purchased them, where people are gonna have their units and then take them into their conference room. So we'll know if we have an acceptable solution for TV 79 and for us within the next 30 days. Karen said the new unit would be in tomorrow.
And that is part of the ARPA proposal. There were two parts to it. One was how do we do hybrid in the outstanding rooms, and the other one was the auditorium, which I talked about already. So that's where we are. We've got our fingers crossed that this will be quick and easy. So does Kate, very much so. Okay, now for the bugaboo. We have had live RTM meetings in person. We have had RTM meetings totally virtual. And what we are trying to do, and we have been working diligently at this with a whole army of people, to try and come up with a limited hybrid version. In other words, something that we can do now before we get all this technology that we really need that's going to take a long time. A number of you here have been involved in these sessions. We've had two. Unfortunately, we have not successfully tested exactly what we've gotten close. But we're at a place where we're going to have one more. We're trying hard for the June 6th meeting. And what the idea would be to have a computer at the podium, and that at the podium, the computer would be working with GoToWebinar, and the voice from the PA system would go through there out to the people in virtual world. And then Cecil will, being Kate, for the meeting, and he will control, so we can actually hear the voice of the people that are out in virtual land. Their mics will be opened and let them speak, so they can raise their hands and similar. So we're going to have to go slowly, but we're having trouble with the computer. Oh, so then the second part of it is having presentations, okay? And the way we have worked in the auditorium is that there's a projector and somebody sits at the computer and people in the auditorium can see the screen. The way we've worked in virtual is that somebody shares their screen and you can see the presentation there. Conceptually, it's locked. Actually, we haven't successfully done it totally yet. Part of that is that the computers that the town had that we tried today are very old, and we had a lot of problems hooking everything up. We are going to give it another shot, and we did it thanks to Patty and Mac and Jim Cameron and other people were out in the boonies, supporting
And
us.
Cecil here for hours.
Yeah, we've done it twice for a whole lot of time. I think we're going to do it one more time. I mean, the question is whether we use our personal computers or we can get something from the town. And we had hoped that the town computers would be more up to date. We were shocked today with what we saw. So that's a whole nother issue. We're going to take another shot and see. But that leaves us to a point of, and I think this is part of what the reason we wanted to talk about it is, we can have a virtual meeting. We're comfortable that everybody knows how to make that work. We can have an in-person meeting, and we're comfortable that we know how to make that work, and sorry for the people that can't come or don't want to come. This limited hybrid is a little risky. I think we've agreed that it's about 60% chance that the limited hybrid is going to work. So if you're in the room for the RTM meeting, you're golden, okay? You know, your vote will count and everything else. We're hoping that it'll work. So, the way we're going to do voting for the people that are virtual is polling, similar to what we've always done, okay? Something may happen that we may not be able to hook those people in. And I raise that because as the Rules Committee, we have a responsibility of saying, how do we want the meeting to work? Okay? And that's where we are right now. We had hoped for have a more like we'd be 90% sure we got it going, but it didn't go that way today.
For instance, when Chris does his slides for the HHR, Jill has to be at the table to change the slides for him on another computer. And I have to sit next to Jill to change the slides at the same time she does for the people who are watching online. So if there's any breakup in that or any bandwidth blips, like there were today, the people who are at home may lose the feed. Now, they could run to TV 79, which will be televising it live, and watch it there. But the the computers are so old that there's a lot of coordination.
Thank you.
There's a lot of coordination, and is it worth the risk to have it in person where there's that many things that could go wrong?
And then really
And we have no IT people who are going to be in town that night.
and Kate's not gonna be in town then.
Kate's not in town, and the town IT guy's out of town, so we have no one there in case. Cecil will be there, and he's gonna do it from here, not from his home, in case something happened. But we're concerned that, like, I can't get the backup screen to work. But I have no one here to talk to help me.
Ann?
Test it? Oh, I'm sorry.
Mike, if.
I'll get you, Patty.
If we decided to have a full remote meeting, the fact that Kate's not gonna be here or the IT person, does that matter?
No, Cecil did the last
Cecil can
meeting
do
by
it.
himself.
We're good on that.
But when Kate was stuck in the Board of Selectmen meeting.
Sorry.
Patty?
I didn't know your hand was up. I was just gonna ask, it sounds like you're gonna do one more try, so we're not in Madison Square Garden like when I was beta testing with you guys.
That's
But it
not
got-
an issue.
But that's not an issue, and it got better and better by the end of that.
Yeah, we fixed
kind of
that
beta
one.
test.
That one we got
My
solved.
question is, when can you test it with someone's new computer versus the old computers?
We can do it again this week if people are available. My concern is that even if we test it and it works, there's a risk that the virtual part will not be available for voting. I mean, we were just shocked today at how many little pieces got wrong. And so that's the concern. But the idea may be, everybody come to the RTM meeting. For those of you who can't, we're giving you this option with a 85% chance that it will be good. I mean, I don't know what else to say, because it is that.
Teresa?
So in light of Clara's email to all of us today, I'm just curious, how many people actually showed up to the in-person meeting last time?
70.
70.
And were those 30, like, do you happen to know, like, what was the feedback maybe you got about having the meeting in person? Were those 30 people unavailable? Were they not comfortable? Or did they actually have COVID? Do you know?
Krista, are you hearing that, and do you have any feedback from that?
Did you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, yes. The votes were 71 is the full attendance. I heard the mask issue may have kept some people away. COVID clearly was an issue that kept people away, so that's some feedback I
What's the normal attendance? Isn't 70 about the normal attendance of the RTM
Prior to the virtual.
Yeah.
prior to the pandemic?
Right.
No, higher than
Somewhere
that,
around there.
higher than that. And by the way, we were 68 when the meeting started, because that was the number that you had said. And then clearly, people were coming in off their commuting from their train and getting in those last three. So,
Yeah.
just to be
Krista.
clear.
What's it usually
To
when?
your question, as that was the budget meeting, I would say that the attendance for the budget meeting tends to be higher. On a typical meeting, I would say that's probably more indicative, but the RTM tends to pull more people to the budget.
Thank you.
And how many people have we been, since we were virtual, what was the attendance like?
85 or 90, I would say.
Yeah, it was over 90.
It was definitely over 90. It was close to 100 multiple times, because I took notes at every meeting how many that we had on.
Yeah.
That were just RTM, not the panel.
Yep.
It was very high.
I think that Adele raises a very good point, and I think that we should be cognizant of the virtual attendance as opposed to what the attendance was prior to the pandemic. I also agree with Krista that budget meetings tend to be of higher attendance than regular meetings, even prior to the pandemic. And Krista, I'll have this stuff to you tomorrow.
Krista?
Get you. The other point I thought might be helpful, when you're looking at the business of the RTM, clearly attendance is a factor, and then voting. I can tell you, over the last year, with the virtual, we have had situations where people may be attending and not able to vote. That's been sort of a constant issue. In person, those who are there are their votes are always captured, for what it's worth.
I thought we had one or two people that we solved them along the way, that we solved their voting issue, their connection issue along the way. And there were two that I can think of that I thought they were solved.
Lois?
It was I'm sort of along the lines of Mike. I think the number is very small.
Yeah,
That when we were virtual, that we're not able to vote.
I'm saying it is by no means a majority, it's just that it is a factor. There's one person in particular I don't think has voted hardly at all over the last couple of months. Always present, just not able to vote. You also had a scenario where you had to amend the minutes because the member said that she had voted and it was not recorded on the GoToWebinar. Again, it is not a majority, it is a small number, but you do not have that issue in person, for what it's.
Yeah, okay. Others? I'll take a motion on, we just talk about a motion on how you want to meet. Do you want a virtual? Do you want a in-person with masks? In-person without masks? The combination is possible, I guess, to do a virtual with a face-to-face. It has higher risk than than anything else, I guess, if I can interpret what Lois was saying. Okay.
Beth, can I just make one more comment?
Yeah.
To what you just said, is that I have to say that I would say thank you very much that everyone came and that wore the masks. I think the masks were awfully important for people's comfort. And without the mask, I think you would lose quite a few people. But thank you for those. If there were any enforcers out there, thank you, thank you. If we didn't need enforcers, that's great, but it was wonderful. People really did wear the masks. Appreciated it.
Anecdotally, I would pass on to you that there was one person who just forgot. But we had a distinguished district chair who delivered a mask, and so everyone in the audience, everyone who was there was wearing a mask.
Listen, I would just add a comment that I think there's no data behind this, I suspect, so it's not the kind of thing we can have data
Speak a
for.
little louder, Michael.
Can you not hear okay?
Yeah, Jack's having trouble hearing.
Dominic, I'll go to the mic.
That could be because I'm old, but go ahead.
That's okay, Jack. Happy to get up and walk across the room for you. I guess one thing that I see a benefit of the live meeting or the in-person meeting is, and this is anecdotal at best, is the quality of the meeting and the quality of the engagement of the people in the meeting. And I just don't get the sense that that is there when 100 people are in their living room and just listening and are not interacting. And that's a personal opinion. There's no data behind it, but I do believe there's a benefit to being in person.
Okay.
I would agree with you if I had more confidence in the virtual, in the hybrid part.
I'm not saying I'm a fan of the hybrid, so.
Yeah. I would agree with you if I had more confidence that the hybrid would work.
Ann?
If we did the hybrid, and let's just say, for sake of example, that 57 people show up live and
You
the
lose
rest
the
are
quorum.
online, and then we have a disaster and we cannot vote based on technology. Seth, what would be the result of that? Would you just take the votes of the people in the room? Yes.
Chris,
I tell you what I would do in that situation. We didn't have a problem last time, but I would sit with town council. I would have a deep consult with the town council. Say, okay, let's just what's the proper approach? It might be that if it was a permanent unfixable, so you'd move on to the next. But if it was unfixable, I think you'd have to adjourn it.
Krista wanted to say something, but you're not seeing her on your screen.
Can I, Krista, if you don't mind, I think that Robert's Rules of Order allows us to vote, and because the quorum, we had sort of the quorum, but there was an issue with the technology. I think that we're allowed to vote on the issues and can then have these items passed. If there is the belief that had we had a full quorum, it would have passed the same. So like if none of these things are close and other things because of the technical issue, we might still be able to conduct the meeting, do our voting, and then proceed from there. But again, that's something worthwhile to check out.
I absolutely will promise you a deep consult with town council on this one. It's a good question, it's a very good question, and I would have that answer, and I'd get it in writing back out to the Rules Committee right away.
Lois has it.
Yes,
So
Lois.
part of what, because we've talked about this today, because we were trying to lay out all our options, and part of what we thought about was that as long as we maintain a quorum of the RTM, I think the vote can count. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
obviously, you need to get it straight.
Yeah.
You know, if we end up with less than a quorum, then we can't vote.
Right.
But if we still have a quorum, then I think, you know, yes, we need to, but that would be my working assumption in this whole thing. And
Yeah.
so it depends.
We have to make sure we get a quorum. If we're gonna have a mixed meeting, we at least have to make sure we get a
Right.
quorum.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that we can do. That even worst of all worst cases, we can count the number of people who are up on the system, so we know that.
Well, no, we
It's
were talking
recorded.
about having a quorum in the room.
No, if they can't vote, they can't be counted.
Yeah, the quorum would
Oh,
be in the room,
well,
that's what
all
we're
right.
talking
I
about.
was thinking this happened in the middle of the meeting. All right, yeah, if at the start of the meeting we can't count them and it's not working, then we don't have a quorum.
Yeah. I mean, I think, unfortunately, you know, I'm always hopeful. Today was a little disappointed. That should work. I mean, we've really, all the pieces that we got in place finally today should work, which is a lot better than where we were 2 weeks ago. So the thing I think where I come out is that if we do this, then anybody that's virtual is vulnerable to not having their vote count. As long as we have a
If they weren't gonna
quorum.
come in the first place, this at least gives them the opportunity to perhaps it's gonna work, and then they can vote, and then we have more people voting.
I would
We certainly
I would
can-
look at another, at the flip of what Patty just said, which is if we make the virtual option, more people might choose it that would have been willing to come, but since they're given the option, they choose to stay home and do it. And then if we have the voting problem, we risk having a quorum in the room.
Maybe, I think people
Yeah, I
who are gonna
think-
come are gonna come.
But I
don't
think
it
also,
gives
I hear
the
you.
other people.
folks, I think we're in a position where we can publish what the risk is. That there's a risk if you don't show up in person, there's a risk. We can't quantify it really, but there is some risk that the system won't function right and we can't record their vote.
And
Mark,
I would point
Mark.
out, virtually every meeting we've had since the inception of the virtual meetings has had that risk for individuals, whether they had bad modems, didn't know how to use the technology, and various other glitches. So I don't see that as materially different, personally, than what we've been experiencing.
I'll give you an example of what I would worry about. Today,
Yeah.
my screen sharing on GoToWebinar on this computer worked great. On GoToMeeting, I can't get my screen sharing to work. So, you know, obviously that's something that's tested out before. It worked perfectly today on GoToWebinar, but it's not working on GoToMeeting. There's not gonna be anybody there to help me on the night of the meeting if I can't share the slides to they would have to, TV 79 will be televising it live and they will have a copy of the slides and somebody would have to do it, but there's a 1 to 2 minute delay in what they would see. So there are other places that people who aren't here would be able to watch it, but there is a delay.
I think I have a solution to that. I'm going to be having at least half of the HHR team who've been doing the presentations at my virtual meeting tomorrow because it coincides with the Board of Ed meeting, so Jill and Dr. Adley will not be there. But we can have any slides that F&B intends to review, as well as the HHR presentation distributed to all RTM members So even if they can't have the screens that you want to show there, they're in possession, if they're virtual, they're at least in possession of the material.
Jack, can you do that also with the other three, the sidewalks, and do you going to have presentation material for the other three resolutions also?
No.
Oh, okay, well, that makes that easy. Good.
The only one that, for HHR, they're gonna be going through the standard packet. I strongly suggest that, if people have not had the opportunity to look at either the Board of Finance or the Board of Selectmen meetings, that they do so. Board of Finance had some very robust questions. Board of Selectmen asked some very good questions as well. And so that's one part of it. But these other three are a very, I don't want to say simple, but they're smaller bonds. It's the 77.5 mil that people are going to want to know what the effect is. With the projects that can't be named at today's meeting, coming down the pipes at some time.
Yeah, that will be a whole nother game. Okay,
Discussion.
other discussion, please? Any more? All right, I'll take a motion here on, from somebody on how you want this meeting to go.
Can I make one statement? before-
Sure, Patty.
Just- So, you know, our last rules meeting was interesting. As we kind of went around and we're trying to figure all of this out. Clearly, I'm here. I'm without a mask. I'm comfortable being here. But one of the things that was a sticking point for me last time, so I just want to say it was, we had a District 1 rep whose husband was very, very sick and had been sick and fighting glioblastoma cancer for 2.5 years. And she had sent an email to our district chair and to myself that day saying, because the Rules Committee decided that the meeting had to be in person, I can't come. I'm disappointed, but I hope you'll understand. Like, she felt bad that she couldn't come. And so that was in my head when I was going through some of those discussions as we were going around. And the thing that sticks with me was that someone on the Education Committee said to me later, or actually said to me prior to that, she hasn't missed an Education Committee meeting. And she had been trying to get on education for years in our district, but we always had people above her. And so finally, last year on rules, I pushed to get an additional person on. She made every single meeting. But she couldn't, she couldn't, she was so disappointed she couldn't do the big budget vote because so much of that was education. So unfortunately, I'm in this outfit because I went to her husband's memorial service today. So I'm just conscious of, you know, we're in a tough 6 weeks right now we've gone through. Maybe we can just be a teeny bit more flexible. Let's just kind of get through the next month. And I personally feel like if we can do the meeting in person, and I'll be there, but if we can cut some people some slack for this last meeting, what's the harm? I get it if they can't end up voting, but at least they get the chance. I really believe if people want to come to the meeting, they'll be there. I don't think they're going to be sitting on their back porch having a glass of wine. I think they'll want to be there, or they can't because somebody is in their family is sick or there's a real issue there. So,
Patty, are you looking for a hybrid then?
I would like to see, yes, I would like to see a hybrid for this last meeting. And then if we have another one after that, we'll see what's happening.
I agree with you, Patty, as long as, I think just I worry about, make sure we have a quorum in the room, just in case.
That's my word.
Okay. So can
Well,
I,
why can't a quorum count also online when a quorum was counting when we were all online?
As long as the tech's working, it will.
it would.
Okay.
It's only.
Let's
Let's
I'm gonna go buy everybody a new laptop tomorrow.
No, I have asked formally the chair of the Technology Committee of the Rules Committee to approach the town administrator tomorrow, or at the earliest possible convenience, to have some of that ARPA money spent for a new computer. Because in the net bottom line, the only reason that we've got this high risk situation is because we got an outmoded computer we're trying to drive it with.
It's more than that.
It's probably not the
It's
only
three
reason.
different computers, three different computers we're trying to coordinate, four different computers we're trying to coordinate.
Four, and whatever Mike said.
But there's an issue, there may be an issue.
Can I ask a question before we vote? And
Yes,
first of all,
Jack.
Patty, I fully agree with you. And my condolences to the member of District 1. If we're doing a hybrid, we will at least know who is online if we're using a GoToMeeting, similar to what we did on any virtual. Is that not correct?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, you're correct.
So if we have that, this is where, that makes the quorum, and I think that's part of, even if we find out that those individuals are unable to vote, and let's say we have 30 there and 30 in-house, that gives us 60. If the 30 in-house vote in favor of something, and unfortunately the other 30 are unable to, I think that still passes
I don't think so.
the resolution.
I will
And
get
think
you an
that's
answer
one
for
way
that,
to
folks.
say.
Trust me, I will
As long
get
as
it,
we
and
have
I'll
that
find you
quorum,
paragraph
we
in
can know
Robert's
this.
rules, but I'm not prepared to give you an answer on that.
That's the
tonight.
question I was gonna have.
Yes,
Seth,
Mark.
is-
Yes.
Yeah, the question I was gonna have is,
But
the
as long as
quorum
we
of
can
the
count
people,
them,
Well,
quorum has to
hold on,
vote.
Jack, hold on, Jack, Mark's,
Yes.
hold on, Jack, Mark's talking.
A
Yeah.
quorum needs to vote, or a quorum needs to have been present to
Be present.
be a valid
They have to be
meeting.
present.
They have to
Just
be
present, so in Jack's example, where 30 are in the room and vote, and 30 are virtual, and vote doesn't get
Well, some of
recorded.
it would be timing. In other words, people coming up and they can't get on. The
No,
thing's
I
not-
understand, I
From moment
understand.
one, then you only have 30, because 30 of them are blocked by the thing.
So I think it's kind of like the situation we just had in the room when we were wondering whether or not Jack was, like, we didn't know what
Yeah.
Jack
Didn't know what
was.
happened.
Right? And we learned that we can't record a vote at all, like not even an abstention. So I
Right,
get
that's
kind of what you're
exactly
saying.
it.
Yeah, right.
And so if it was,
Did not vote as,
so in a close count, the folks in the room whose votes counted would be the deciding, even if
Correct.
the other 30 virtual all went one way or the other.
Correct.
yeah.
Well, if something happens
Yeah.
with the link, and bandwidth may be an issue also, then those votes don't exist,
Yeah.
those people don't exist.
But they counted for the quorum at the beginning of the.
But the vote,
Yeah.
the quorum counts again when you vote,
That's my question.
yes, it
No,
does.
it
No.
does
Well, then
not.
30 wouldn't be a
I don't-
quorum.
I don't
No,
think.
I
that's
will
what I'm
get
saying,
you,
you have to have
folks,
51 people in the room.
this is not,
That's what I'm saying.
this is a moment where the moderator gets to sit with town council and we go through this in spades. And then I get something back to you and I show you
Agreed.
paragraphs in Robert's rules and I will do that quickly.
Yes,
Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, Adele.
So,
Mike, are you gonna use GoToMeeting, or are you gonna use the webinar?
the town contract is with GoToWebinar.
Yeah, so that would be the same polling situation that we've had on our virtual
Yes.
meetings. You'd use that for those
Yeah.
online. Okay,
Yeah, for
good.
the people who are virtual, it would be no different than any of the first 10 or 12 meetings we had, before we went live. For them, it would be no different. The only thing that would be different is that if there was a technical failure, they would be able to go, now, they may only have one device, but if they had two devices, they could go to DarienTV79.com and watch it live on video, which they could not do in previous meetings that were virtual. This meeting, if it's a hybrid, it will be being broadcast live, and they would be able to hear it. Now, in theory, they could text their vote.
That's what I was gonna ask.
To
the
their district chair.
And doesn't Greenwich do that?
That's what Greenwich does.
Correct.
They-
So
they-
there's a
they-
precedent for this.
Everyone sends their vote to the district chair, and the district chair presents it to the,
So that's definitively allowed, because like when we did our caucus for District 6 last week, we did a quote-unquote hybrid. But somebody was not logged on, and we were told she couldn't text her vote in.
No, I'll get an answer on that.
Well, this
Well,
is
this
how
person would
Greenwich
be-
does it.
Just because Greenwich does it, with all due respect.
No,
to
what
them.
I'm saying is they're
Yeah.
a larger body, and they, I mean, Lois and Mike went and watched, endured those meetings and learned how they were doing it, and that they
They
were,
had
Yeah.
a whole different process.
they were
That-
texting. But I'm saying that was, they were texting their
Mhm.
district chair. So if we had a sudden default and people could go to finish the end of their meeting, that watching on Channel 79, that could be an option that we have.
Mhm.
Seth, if you could talk to Wayne about
Yeah,
that.
I
So
will,
could we do that?
absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you.
if
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
have Cablevision, you don't have Channel 79.
No, you
Is
do.
it on
It's-
YouTube?
It's on YouTube.
It's on
It will be on
YouTube.
It's on YouTube and on Facebook and on
Okay.
Twitter.
It's everywhere.
I would propose
Yes,
that,
Lois.
that if we try and do that, that's too confusing. We will just have total bedlam. My statement is that if we have it working, it's
Can't
great.
hear you, Lois.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks, Adele.
I appreciate and I support all of these, because I also came up with that idea of, chat, sending in a text to the district, we went through that. In this case, if we're running a certain way and we have virtual and it fails us, I think it's too confusing to start having alternate ways of voting. I just don't think that's gonna work. As much as I would like to propose that, I don't think we can do it. I just wouldn't add that to what we're doing. Because if the technology fails, we start scrambling and adding more
You want a
confusion.
plan B? And have it already, just saying for anybody who might be virtual? Anyways, all right.
Well, as long, but in the middle of the meeting, when it's all live, people forget what they were supposed to do.
Yeah,
So-
we scrambled a lot today and we thought we had it under control, but anyway.
So,
We'll test it next week with a new computer and,
Right.
the good news is we have.
Yeah.
Can you
we have-
test it this week, Mike?
Pardon?
Did you get it
Yeah.
done? Did we test it this week?
I'm not here.
fastest we could get, and the problem is that one of the key decision makers is not in town.
Yeah,
Okay.
That would be the town administrator. Okay,
I just
Yes,
did
Jack.
a quick lookup, pardon me, I just did a quick lookup of Robert's Rules of Order. So, here's the key. As long as the people are still capable of hearing the meeting, hence they're on GoToMeeting, even if they cannot vote, we still have a quorum and business can be conducted. If we lose that group that brings us below 51, then the meeting is supposed to stop.
Yep.
the Lois may disagree with me, but if we have a problem, the problem is going to be in the presentations of the slides from the two presenters, because we have three different computers. One, go ahead, Lois, you want to?
Mike, I think you've come up with good options for the slides, that people can see them. And Jack, I support what you said in sending the slides out ahead of time. So I'm less worried about the we have been very stable in the computer working on the podium, and that's worked. And we have been able, once we establish the communications, that's worked. I just feel very vulnerable because things flipped today. So, I'm not worried about the slides. I think we can cover that. I'm worried about the communication staying in sync, but I think I'm just, if it was tomorrow, I'd feel better about it because it was hard today. I think it's worth a shot. I think I threw out a number saying we have a 60% chance. With another test, we hope it will be up to 90-95%. That's what we're talking about. And if I have to use my computers, I'm going to use my computers. I mean, that's where we ended up.
So we're saving all this money of just distributing things online. The slides, is it possible to distribute the slides for all the slides that are going to be presented either by mail or online, so everyone can have access to it even if it's not in real time while we're watching it in the room?
Yeah, just attach it to the agenda.
That's
I
right.
mean,
Yeah.
we do that for all our
Let Jack
community
answer that.
meetings.
Christie, you can do
And then
that.
we print them out and We're
That would assume I have all the presentations in time for.
Yes, Jack.
You have the HHR though, right? You have the HHR because we saw Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance.
All right, so you
So
need,
just let me check on that, because I'm gonna try and coordinate this for you. You would need whatever slides are going to be presented in your office by Wednesday, this Wednesday, 2 days from now, Krista, to distribute it?
The meeting's not till the 6th.
Oh, no. No. A week from.
Next week.
Monday's a
Say
holiday.
a week from Wednesday?
Okay, I'll speak to Chris to have him, because the main presentation is going to be his. I'll ask him to send his presentation to you today or tomorrow.
Well, we need it by June 2nd.
Presentation lives in my house.
but it's a 4-day delivery period.
So that way you have it ahead of time.
Well,
And
you email
mine
them,
is just getting a slide from Jen, so.
All right.
Yeah. I'm-
You guys
I'm
can
shooting to
coordinate
be on
that?
the package on that Wednesday.
Okay, super.
All
I'll
right.
work and coordinate with you on that, Krista.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Jack.
And I would just say, if need be, as an additional backup, per Jack's comment, it's been presented at the Board of Selectmen, it's been presented at the Board of Finance. We can also tag, if you want to watch the presentation ahead of time, you know, here are the 2 meetings and watch from, you know, minute 65 till this thing. Just
Right,
one
got it.
more added information for them to
Possibility.
do
All
their
right.
due diligence, yeah.
All right, now, is there more comment, or are we ready for a motion?
So the motion will be to have the meeting, the next RTM meeting on
Hybrid.
June
As a hybrid.
6th
6,
as a hybrid meeting.
as a hybrid meeting, with
masks.
or without masks?
With masks.
With masks.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, I have a motion from Terry. Do I have a second?
Teresa.
Teresa,
My mother's
excuse
Terry,
me.
I'm sure.
Who's Terry?
Very clear about that.
Excuse me, Teresa. A second?
I'll second it.
Patty is seconding, okay. Ready to vote? Are there any no votes? 1 no vote, Michael Casalo. Any abstentions? I see none. The motion passes with 1 no vote. Great. So at this juncture then, we'll just talk about the voting the order. And what I would do is do the called order, the agenda, approval of the minutes. Then we'll do sidewalk repair, sidewalk installation, and Darien High track first, in that order. And then do the appropriations and bond authorizations after that. And then finish with the code charter degenerification. Does that sound okay? All right, can I have a motion then to approve the agenda?
Get the motion.
Thank you, Patty and Ann, seconding. Further discussion? Ready to vote? Are there any no votes? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. That's terrific. New business?
Yes, actually, Seth, I do have something.
Okay, Jack?
I apologize that I cannot share this, and unfortunately, Peter has, Alfanos was unable to make this meeting today, but he and I have been in conversation, he's been in conversation with Duke and with Ed Washeka, and there's a statement that I think he would be good making to start our June 6th agenda. And I'm going to paraphrase it, and I apologize because this is all Peter's idea, but we will be addressing it at our meeting, but believe that it might also be worthwhile for the full RTM. And the statement is, in light of the recent tragic events, the RTM wants to reaffirm its support for the Board of Education and the Board of Selectmen to help those in need. We offer our emotional and spiritual support to the families and the community as a whole. So we have approval, Duke was appreciative of that. We are going to be addressing that at our meeting. And so the question is whether or not the rules is willing to have a statement such as that read to start the June 6th meeting.
All right. Comments? Yes, Frank?
There's room in the format, there's a sense of the meeting, paragraph in Roberts.
Right.
And that might be what carries Jack's suggestion.
Sense of the meeting vote?
No, it's just a,
We haven't used it, but I've
You
I've
can.
always seen it there.
I've used it. I mean, I've seen it when I've been on the RTM in the past.
Yes, it is.
Many times.
It's
We
allowed.
do committee meetings.
Sorry?
Sometimes we do committee meetings with the South Point.
Okay, and is this in reference to anything specific, Jack, or
Presumably the two,
those in need, but
Last 6
preliminary
weeks.
the two suicides.
In the last 2 months, we've had 3 deaths at the high school.
There's definitely, and Patty can speak better on this based upon her activity today. But there was a whole discussion on mental health at both the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen. There's been some very tragic events addressing mental health, and there's others that are in there. So it's really dealing with anybody who's in need, but also we've had some very sad events to some
okay,
of us.
that's all you need to do is just couch it in those terms that, that then people get a sense of what it was all about. That's
Yeah, I
all.
don't think you need to be too specific, I think. the
Yeah,
town-
it doesn't have to be specific, but I think adding something about mental health is helpful.
I'll speak to Peter about that.
Yeah, okay, got it, I'll put, once I have the text on that, I'll just put it in as sense of the meeting vote on
Those two helps make the-
mental health or something like that. I'll talk to you about it, we'll figure out a way to
Okay.
couch it.
Okay.
Okay, so we would add that,
Do it first.
yeah, after approval of the minutes.
Seth Krista wants to say something.
Yeah, just, let me, I know.
It's a new topic, so after you're comfortable with it, thank you. I just wanted to circle back with the decision to move the Connecticut Fire Commission into the fall. Is there a meeting in which you all have decided it, or is this going to be something for the next Rules Committee to decide? Just so I'm clear when I contact him.
I would plan to put it on the first meeting in September.
I would argue for November.
We talked about
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, November, correct. Yeah.
the
The
organization.
first one when the new members are sworn in.
When the new members are, well, sometime, okay, so right after the election?
Right,
Yes.
Okay, that would be perhaps the new Rules Committee.
perhaps,
That would be before the rules.
but
So I just want to know, is it before the election or
I'm trying to
after?
think if that's,
The rules committee
no, that's-
are voted in
that's-
at that night,
yeah,
at the organizational meeting,
Right.
so this would
It's
just
the
be.
moderator vote.
This would be
Okay,
just-
great.
the moderator would set the agenda on the Rules Committee and, presumably add that, would just remind whoever it is.
Okay, so we're saying that first November meeting
Right.
after the election.
Because that's a good time for people to hear that, and it's a time when we're also publishing some instructions about it.
Okay, just wanted to clarify, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Great, so we will add the sense of the meeting vote after after approval of the minutes. Then we're gonna do the sidewalk repair, sidewalk installation, Darien High, track and jump areas, and then the 3 bond appropriations. And then finally, the code charter degenderification. So can I have a motion to set the agenda for the June 6th meeting of the RTM?
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Thank you, Patty. Any
Can we say
objection?
what the agenda is that we're voting on?
You just said it.
Yeah, you just said it.
I did, but I'll review it again.
I'm sorry, I missed it.
No problem, Jack. It's just call to order, acceptance of the agenda, approval of the minutes, sense of the meeting vote, 2020 sidewalk repair, sidewalk installation, Darien High track and jump areas, and then the 3 appropriations and bond authorizations for the schools, and then finally the code charter degenderification.
I apologize, thank you.
Okay, yes, Frank?
I just want to confirm that if in the next 2 weeks, some information or program or announcement comes out of that Great Island, that we would be able to amend the agenda to allow that information to be presented to our meeting.
It's not gonna happen with weather.
Yeah, no.
But we
I
can
would-
amend the agenda
I
to bring
would-
that in if it becomes available.
I would not put it in the June 6th meeting. If it comes to that, we'll have a special Rules Committee meeting to address whatever it is that we're supposed to do. And then we'll go from there, because Rules probably would be setting a special meeting of the RTM, but that's a one-item deal.
Yeah, and HHR
Yes.
is too important to,
Okay?
Plus, I'm assuming that all the committees would like to have more than 3 days' notice to work on whether or not this is, to review the project that we can't mention.
So we got 50 people to go see the Public Works Garage. Can you imagine how many people you get to go to this tour?
All
You
right.
need school buses.
So at this juncture, we've approved the agenda for the RTM. We've covered new business, so I would accept a motion to adjourn. Frank, yes, very good, and I see Teresa in the back seconding.
A rising vote.
All in favor, please rise.
Thank you.
We are rising.
thank you.